None of us are perfect. And if you go into something thinking it's perfect, you already set yourself up for failure.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Dialogue to Destiny. Our goal is to engage in discussions that lead to personal and systematic change. These conversations can broach subjects that some may find offensive. It is not the intent of Dialogue to Destiny to in any way offend. Our intent is to encourage open dialogue so that collectively we can all move forward.
We've been down for way too long, but now they saying we're equal. Then I'm the one that's wrong for trying to wake up all my people. Speaking facts about the system, how the wicked is ruling. But now the lights is on, it's time for us to do the schooling. Tell the whole truth, salute, this knowledge is heaven sent. Politicking in a cipher, breaking bread with my constituents. We melanated and all hated. Let's just keep it real, sharing from the mind every time. That's how we truly feel. With verbal buckshots to the chest, aiming for the kill. Then bring a new life, get your mind right. There's war up in the field.
All right. Well, hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Dialogue to Destiny. A few episodes ago, Steve and I had a discussion. We were supposed to be joined by a female at that time, but we had a discussion about relationships, roles in relationships between the man and the woman, what responsibilities each of those might carry. So what we're going to do today is we're going to give the ladies an opportunity, which we had promised you on that episode that we would try to do, to come on and give their take as to what they believe the relationship is and each person's role in the relationship. So we're going to be joined by Steve's wife, Nicole, and Leslie's cousin, Toya, and they're gonna kind of represent the female role in this argument. So if you guys want to introduce yourselves and just kind of let us know a little bit about you.
First, it's not an argument, it's a discussion. Let's make that clear first. My name is Toya Logan. I have been married now for almost 29 years. I've been with my husband for more than half of my life. We have we have four children, but we have a few outside before we got married. So we have a total of 7 or 8 kids. I don't know. And I just know we got kids. And we have 4 or 5 grandchildren. I'm still waiting for our children, our boys, to have kids. But yeah, that's it. I'm a mom. I've been at my job for over 20 something years. So I'm glad you guys invited me today.
All right. Nice having you.
I'm Nicole. I'm Steve's wife. We've been married for 15 years, and we've been together 16 years. It's been a long time.
Usually it's the man that gets that information wrong. We've been together like 16 years, and we've been married 13.
Okay, all right. So I don't even know if his math is correct, but it's been a long time. We have 4 children together, a total of 4. All of our children are adults. We have 13 grandchildren, and they range in age from 18 to a brand new baby. So we have them all. And relationships, I guess we're gonna talk about relationships. What we think they should be, even things that we view differently today than we would have at the time that we got into our relationship. There's clearly some things that I think, looking back, could have been done differently. Yes. In order for the relationship to grow to the place where it is today at a different rate, at a faster rate. I'm happy with my marriage. I believe my husband is happy in his marriage too. But of course, there's ups and downs and things that you go through, and some of those things could be avoided if you take a different course. So I think today's conversation really is talking about what you did that you think you did that's right, what you think you could do that could be better, and hopefully some people can take away some information that might be a positive and encouraging for them as they explore relationships.
All right.
Well said.
You got something you want to add real quick?
I was just going to sit back today. As host and co-host, we felt that we should be on here to help segue the young ladies into the conversation, but I would like to sit back and let them be able to speak from the female perspective on relationships, unbridled or unconcerned about what our opinions would be. However, we would like to offer time at the end of their discussion to have that the jamboree, so to speak, where the males and the females come in and we can kind to discuss and debate, but not argue about relationships. I can see that Toya does not play, and I do not want to get on her bad side.
Oh,
That's
geez.
why I sat this far away. I'm just playing. Very nice young lady. Family as well. But that's all I would like to say at this time. I'd like to save most of my commentary to where we're actually having a discussion amongst ourselves.
Well, they did. I did have to promise both of them that I would kind of shut up. So I'm just gonna start it off by asking you guys one question to hopefully just kind of kick off the conversation. How would you define a good man or a good woman?
I think that's kind of hard because you don't know what's good for you based on where you are in your life. I mean, as when I was younger, anyone light-skinned, it was good for me. I mean, that's how I roll. I mean, that's what I was attracted to. That's what I thought I wanted. So that's where I slated. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that individual was good for me, but that's what a teenage Toya wanted. Now, when I got into church and then I met my husband, I was like, oh, he is not my type. Oh my gosh, who is this man? First of all, he started off wrong trying to have a conversation with my child. And so that threw me off. But I was in a different space. The Bible says a man finds a wife, he finds a good thing. But then you like, well, you don't hear it say what a woman finds. There's really no scripture for that. So, but it worked out. And so that Toya wanted someone that was going to love her unconditionally, was going to take care of her mentally, physically, and naturally. But that didn't work out either. Because I was still trying to figure out who I was. So I think it's kind of hard when you do that because I think you grow in stages. And as you grow in stages, you and that person should grow together. I mean, I don't know what you would think. I think as I've transgressed and matured in age, I've come to realize what I really want, because he can't be the man I need him to be unless I know the woman I am. How can he fulfill me if I don't know what I need to be fulfilled? And I think as you grow and you mature naturally and spiritually, that's where that can come into play. So I think that's kind of a hard question. For me, it's hard, but it's easy. Right now, we're good because I know who I am as a woman and as on a natural and a spiritual. But you ask me 10 years, I'm like, man, he can't. Jesus, take the wheel. But I didn't know who I was. So I had unrealistic expectations for him because I didn't know what I wanted. Now I know what I want, and I make sure he knows what I want. Closed mouth don't get fed. So.
Yeah, I agree that what a definition of a good man or a good woman is really based on the two individuals that are entering the relationship. So everybody's perspective on that is probably going to be a little different.
Okay.
However, there's some things that might be basic, there's some things that are definitely basic if and we are talking about a monogamous relationship. And so, fidelity is important on both sides, and that people understand what their expectations are in their relationship with one another. So previously you mentioned that, you like traditional roles. So if that's what y'all agree on, if you make that known to that person and they're in a line with that, then that's fine. Me and my husband we're not traditionally rolled people. So, a lot of the things that, you might consider traditional, my husband does those things. A lot of the things that you may think are traditional for a male, I end up doing those things. So, and that works for us. And we talked about some of those things initially when we got together. He asked me questions. I was single and I had children, so I was accustomed to being in control and responsible
Yes,
for
yes.
certain things. And he asked, are these things that you want to continue to control? And for me, at that time, the answer was yes. It was difficult for me to turn over those security things to another person that I was used to controlling. And I think he understood it because he was raised by a single mother and he watched that person be responsible for those things and be comfortable in that role. Now, don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean that I'm not expecting you to carry your weight. You still have responsibilities and a role that you need to participate in. But what that looks like might be different to people who consider male and female roles traditionally, so to speak. So it really depends on what the two people have agreed on. So I think what makes a relationship good between two people is that people communicate in the beginning about what their expectations of the other person are. And they make sure that that other person is in agreement with that. So that later if you have issues about people not being the person that you expect them to be, that that you've had a discussion about this at the outset of the relationship. So I think communication between two people is really important, but I think that it can be challenging. I think that people, even though that, putting it into action
Yes.
can still be challenging and difficult.
I mean, when since she brought up the traditional aspect of a relationship or marriage, I always wonder, what does that consist of? Like she said, what's traditional for them or works for them in their household is totally opposite of what works for me and James. Now, I like to cook, so that's not an issue. And I mean, I'm like you. I was already a mother. I lived on my own. I worked on cars because I was a single mom. I could not depend on someone to do if I needed my alternator changed. I had my aunt's boyfriend teach me how to change my alternator. Well, my husband, he came from a 2 household family. The man did everything. The man worked, all that. And when I met him, he was still at home. I wasn't. I hadn't been at home since I was 18 years old. So my perspective was totally different. Now, it wasn't hard for me to get married and cook because I liked cooking. But then there were certain things I was like, no, wait a minute now. We need to define these roles here, because then you can find yourself overwhelmed and consumed. Because when you talk tradition, you have a lot of men that feel that the wife is supposed to cook, clean, bear the children, work, raise the kids, clean the house, pay the bills, and then when you come home, you sit on the couch. Where's my dinner? Okay, see, there has to be some balance. To me, that's not tradition. Some things we make up because it sounds good. But let's recall, and if we think about it, back in the days, in the 1920s, women didn't work. So they could take care of the kids. They could cook and your meal could be done. They didn't work. They didn't do those things. So you can't have your cake and eat it too. And I think, but it's a process. You have to learn that. And I so love what she said, because if you don't have that conversation before you get married, that that issue is going to transition throughout your whole marriage until you start communicating. I mean, if that's what you guys decide in your household, I'm for it. But I don't per se feel that's tradition. That's something man has envisioned and thinks it is. Because I mean, really think about it. If you think of even in slavery, the women cooked. They was all in the field, but they had their roles. After slavery, men worked. The women tend to the house cleaning and the kids. And the dads did the discipline and paid the bills. She may have did look think a little house on the prairie. I'm just saying. That was how they had to do for that time. But I mean, communication is the key. I agree with you. If you don't communicate and set those grounds, you're not going to make it.
I think too in African American families, what is considered tradition is not the same, because even just now you said men worked and women took care of the house, but usually in African American families we've needed two-parent household incomes for an eternity.
Exactly.
Because our men were not able to find the type of work that would provide for their families and their entire household with just one income. So a lot of times you would have this woman that got up early in the morning and left this house to go cook and clean somebody else's house
Exactly.
all day long.
And but that's what I'm saying. It's like, where does this come is a tradition, because you're absolutely right. The black home is not structured that way. Me and my husband came into this, we have to both work. If we want to attain the goals that we need, that we feel is necessary for our family to grow, we both have to work. So that means that's inside the house and outside the house.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's just it.
You have to split the roles in
both
both
you
places.
have to split them. There's no way. I mean, there's no way, and all women ain't good cooks. So, so I'm just saying, I mean, my husband's a baker. I can cook. I was not that mom that went to all the sports. My boys played sports. I was not that mom. I did not. I was a homebody. I did not like to do it. Well, my husband, he was at every game. I'm like, how are you buying Jordans? We ain't got Jordan monies. But my sons play basketball and they had Jordans. But I'm just saying, priorities, sanctions, and different things. I mean, it's like, yes, the black household, the black family structure is its own entity by itself. I mean, the way we're on for the economic level playing field is totally opposite. And those that do, then they can have different provisions. But you're absolutely right. I don't know how. I don't know, that word tradition just doesn't, and it's no shade. It's just that I don't know if there's really a tradition. What is the tradition?
I just think that, certain people, Dack,
Yeah.
have the idea, that women cook and they clean and they take care of the house, but you have to remember that we have other roles too. Like you said, we generally do work outside of the home. Personally, I work in healthcare.
Okay.
My hours are different.
Yeah.
So I don't have traditional work hours. It just happened recently that I can obtain a set schedule that is a day shift. Up until just a few years ago, my shifts rotated. I worked weekends, and so, and generally longer hours, because healthcare, presents a different kind of beast.
Absolutely.
And so, when you do that, the last thing you want to do is come home and, be responsible for cooking.
Homework done.
Yeah, homework, But you participate in, that's not to say you're absolved from those things. You're willing to participate. You just don't want to be the individual doing those things all the time and in what it's considered a traditional.
No, yeah.
Somebody that expectation would be yours. Well, that wouldn't work for me. That wouldn't have worked in a relationship that I was in. So I was happy that I found someone who didn't have a problem with cooking, who actually cooked better than me. So that was fine. I mean, I can cook. but he can cook better than me. So why shouldn't the better person be in the kitchen?
See, that's all I'm saying, and it doesn't mean it's me.
And he likes it. I mean, some people don't like it. So
Yeah.
but he likes it, and I did it because it was my responsibility so that my kids could live. So that my children could live. So they could survive.
Exactly.
That's why I did it, because I'll come home and eat a bag of popcorn and go to sleep. I can do it, but because these children needed meals provided for them, I provided stable meals for my children. But when he came along and he was willing to do that, I was more than happy to move out of the way and allow him to
let him do it, right?
And then there's things that I deal with the car repairs and stuff, like you said. I'm the one who sets the maintenance appointments for the vehicles and make sure that they get to where they need to be in order for that to happen. I'm generally the person who does the yard work, but I enjoy that. That's something. I don't have a fitness health plan.
So that's your workout.
I feel like I look forward to that. I'll get out there in my headphones and I'll cut the grass. I like it. That works for me. And so it just it really depends on what works for you, and that works for us. He don't particularly care for being out there in the yard messing around. But if I ask him to come out there and help me to do something, can you come out here and trim these bushes for me? Can you come out here and help me get this waste into these bags? He'll help me do that. But, he don't particularly care for that. And I'm fine with that because I like it. It's my way. I can get out of the house. He's in there. Our son's in there. Our granddaughter's in there. Let me out of here.
Just let me get out.
Let me out of here.
Let me run.
Yeah.
But, and there are some traditional things that we won't just, I don't do yard work. I don't do yard work. I don't do yard work. I don't shovel unless I want to. And that's a way for me to do cardio. I'll go out there and I might shovel. I will watch them and say, people will drive by and say, you guys have a beautiful lawn. Yes, we do. James Roberts, you did an excellent job. Do not put my name on it. But then, when it comes to the maintenance of a car, I'm like, oh, something ain't running right with this. I hear something. And he's like, oh, you just hearing things. Then he's like, oh, something happened. I said, I told you I was hearing something. So it's just those little things. But we're supposed to enhance each other. That's the thing. And I think people get confused. It's not about him being the head, which we know, from the church aspect. But we're in this journey together. And so that means he's going to give, I'm going to give. There are times I may give a little more and he may give a little. But it's a balancing act on what your expectations, as you stated before, what is your expectations for that relationship, for you and your partner? I can't image my relationship off of you all's, and vice versa. Because what works in my household may not work in your household. Because we're two different individuals. And I think a lot of people try to put that. That's why I don't like that word tradition. Because it's a preconceived way that we're supposed to be as women and they're supposed to be as men.
And wait. Why? Let's just stop right there for a second. And what they're supposed to be as men, right?
Yes.
Because you'll have these men who have a preconceived notion about what they want in a woman, but have they looked in the mirror to see
themselves,
who they are as a man?
Oh my gosh. See, that's a whole nother thing. So if that's the case, if we're going to be tradition, we shouldn't be working. We shouldn't be working. We should be provided for. We should have all the things we want and need. We shouldn't have to ask you for nothing. We shouldn't grumble. We should nothing. We should not nothing. But that doesn't happen. It kind of gets fuzzy up there when it comes to talking about what their role is. But they know exactly what to tell us what we're supposed to be doing. I want you just to be home and ready when I get home. Man, if you don't get out of here with that. But I'm just saying.
Don't be tired.
You can't be tired.
Don't be tired.
You can't be tired.
Don't be tired.
What you done all day? What you mean?
And I think that, and I find it in every situation when I talk to other women. You talk to young women, you talk to older women, women who have been married for a period of time. And, as a younger woman, what's important to you, like you mentioned, light skinned at one point, and your sex drive might be different, right?
Absolutely.
As a younger woman.
Yep.
And then you have traditional body changes that happen. You have children, you get other responsibilities,
Yep.
things happen, and then your sex drive might go down here, but their sex drive don't change. Right? So then,
Poor fellas.
yeah. So that's the big complaint that you hear from
Yep.
men about women not fulfilling what their
Isn't that what they always
expectations.
complain about?
Yeah,
Once they realize there's a difference between men and women, I think that's always.
And I think they think that what initially happened in the relationship should continue on forever and ever. And
Well, that's not gonna
yeah,
happen.
it doesn't.
It doesn't. I feel for them.
Yeah.
I do.
I
I be
do.
like, Lord Jesus,
Yeah,
help
I
them
do.
out.
I feel for them too, and they
Help 'em
all
to
and they-
sustain, right?
And they always think that your attention is elsewhere, and you're like, no, I'm just tired.
Exactly.
I'm so tired. I couldn't even give no attention no place else. You know what I mean? But
There's no room, right?
there's no room. The busy schedule just doesn't provide room for attention at any place else.
He's like, wait a minute. Y'all.
I don't want to lose my thoughts. I don't want to lose my thoughts.
I mean, write the vision, make it plain.
Yeah, so
But that's so true. It's funny though. I mean, it's like what's they say? When men are from Venus or women from Mars or whatever.
Mars,
women from Venus. I mean, we are totally the opposite.
and what your stimulations are, right?
Yes.
Like, you have physical stimulations,
Mental?
but women vibe on more of a mental stimulation.
We're emotional creatures,
Yeah.
and I don't think men get that. You cannot. Most women. My old pastor used to say, women are emotional, and if you don't catch a woman or get a woman and tap into her emotional, you're gonna struggle
With
with
her
that
physical.
And men are physical. And that's how they want us to tap in. But how can we tap in if we're emotional? And I just don't think they get it.
So I think too, when we get to this stage in our life, everybody begins to really meld and understand more about those things.
Absolutely.
But like you said, maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago.
That was a hot mess.
Yeah, people don't understand how to vibe on that with one another. I think men begin to understand more as they get later. But now I listen to the younger girls, my daughter or, both my daughters, actually. I listen to them talk about the same thing that I was talking about.
When you were that age.
Yeah,
And it's funny.
Mm-hmm, and
I don't need no man. My son about to get married. And I love his fiance. I don't need nobody to do nothing. Keep with that energy. Because you do.
Yes, you absolutely do.
You really, really, really do. And and my daughter, she's steadily looking for love from the wrong individuals. But I think if we even think about it deeper, a lot of times we have our own internal hangups that we don't even discuss before we get to that commitment.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh,
it
yeah.
transcends into the relationship. So not only are we're working on us, we trying to please him, but we got stuff inside of us, and he may too, that he's trying to fix him. And it's clashing until you go back to what you said at the beginning. Communicate. He can't help me or understand where I'm at unless I tell him.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? What is blocking that? What is blocking us? It could be in me. It could be in him. But unless we communicate, how do we know? And then we stuck back that 10-year-old. Man, I should have married that light-skinned dude. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just just playing. I'm playing, honey. I'm playing.
Light skin represent. No,
They old. You know, you seen that movie. How to be a player. Light-skinned men are coming back. I don't know if they came back, Dak. We still waiting for them to come back.
Well, you learn too that it's about a person's character too.
Yes.
You know, how a person presents physically is one thing, and if you allow yourself to get caught up in their presentation physically, you might go on a ride that's going to last you a long time. That might include children and everything else that you wish you could have got off that roller coaster a long time ago.
Oh my
wish
gosh.
you never got on. You know, but you was hung up in what somebody presented as physical, and you
Yes.
didn't look at their character. You know, I was talking to my youngest son, and when people say you marry people's family or you have children with people's family, these are all accurate statements. So you need to look in the background and see what created the person that you're dealing with, because that is what you're going to be dealing with. That's what's
Exactly.
going to flourish in this person's character as you all spend time together. So if you looking at the family and you see that it's off, you need to know that that person is going to be off in them same areas.
Exactly.
You know, and you need to be prepared to deal with that. And if you're not, you should move along. But see, people begin to get involved with people on a
Physical instead of that mental.
and they forget the mental, and now they're so wrapped up
Yes.
in the physical that they're overlooking the red flags that are happening.
That are
in the
already
mental.
there.
They're already there, and before they know it, they're caught up. They're wrapped
That
up in
lust,
the
right?
situation. And so, like, you know, not specifically in this relationship,
Yes,
but
get
you
it.
know, we both mentioned that we had children previously. Apparently, those relationships didn't work out,
No.
right? So,
Someone was going to jail.
yeah. You know, so they didn't work out because we got involved physically
Yes.
instead of looking at the character of the individual that we were dealing with. So the other thing that, you know, I want to encourage people to do that, you know, people think is so out of date or whatever, out of fashion. Stay away from that physical.
Yep.
Stay
If you
away
can
from that
avoid it.
physical. Stay away from that. You know, get to know people on a mental level.
Yep. And their
Know who you're
families,
dealing
like
with,
you
because
said.
I'm telling you, it's easier to walk away from somebody if you spent some time with them and you thought you liked them, but you haven't been sexually involved with them.
Okay, but you know that this generation don't understand that.
Well, the way that they view sex is so distorted, and
Well,
once again, I mean,
That's
we
true
c-
too.
you know, scripturally, and we can go down that road.
Yeah.
You know, it's so distorted from what it should be, how they view physical, the things that they are willing to do, and you know, the things that you know people are wrapped up in. They want to try this and try that, and expose themselves to things that we would have never thought
I would have
about
never thought of.
doing.
I still won't think about it.
Well, yeah.
I mean, I don't believe in sharing.
Oh yeah.
I'm not saying that it may not have happened, but I don't believe in it. Mm-hmm. I don't want to share.
Can I ask a question during this point in time? Because this really hits on something that we spoke about earlier,
Yes.
Dack and I. And it relates to what you guys said about the physical and the emotional. Do you think sometimes in that young caustic relationship, because the young lady has offered herself up or they've gone into sex, that when something happens, it affects her emotionally, and that's when windows get put out?
Yeah.
And the man, because he's physical, he's probably spent some money, you know, bought a gift. And when things don't work out, that's when he wants to place his hands on her.
Mm-hmm.
That the jail thing you spoke about, somebody gonna end up in jail.
Oh, that was me though. I'm just saying,
Right.
because I was putting hands on somebody.
Oh, okay, but still with that being, you know, so in other words, y'all heard that, you know, quote unquote, I can curl him up and I can toss him.
Hey,
But with that being said, do you think that that's where that emotional and that the physical kind of come together when we see that the time that isn't taken in the beginning of the relationship to put those things on hold brings about these things that we're seeing in the youth nowadays in those youthful relationships, kind of what spurs the conversation that we're having.
I think so. I think if you're talking about this generation, I think I don't want to say this. Maybe you can help me. I think the young girls nowadays struggle with love of themselves.
Esteem. Okay.
I think that they meet these men or young boys. I won't say men, boys, and they have this look. They got this money. They doing this. I can get this. I can get that. What do I have to offer? Mm-hmm. And they offer them their physical, but that man is not tapping into that mental. He's not tapping into her emotionally. So then she finds herself attracted to those type of men. On and on and on. And she can't break it. Because she's into that physical. I'm talking about what that money is giving you. Mm-hmm. Not the physical. And then by then you see he got this girl on this side. He going upside her head. She didn't had a baby and she's stuck. And it just becomes a
But you
cycle.
gonna be different.
Yes, you can be different.
But I'm saying, you think when you present, I'm gonna be different.
Yeah.
He busting her upside her head and she got a baby,
Yeah.
but he said she was
Doing
this.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the reason
So
why
I did that.
Yeah,
and then you fall for it, and then you're her. Mm-hmm. And then you get so far in, and you be like, "What happened? Mm-hmm. What happened?" I think you have a lot of young people that have parents that were young, and they're not parenting. They're being their friend. I was a teen mom. My daughter is not my friend. She's my child. And I tell her that every day. When you get ready to talk to me like I'm your mom, then you call me back. Mm-hmm. I tell my boys the same thing. I don't know who you think you're talking to, but I'm not. Mm-hmm. But the roles are twisted. Even when we were younger, and we still knew if my mom's friend saw me down the bus and I was clowning on the bus, I was getting popped by her and getting in trouble when I got home. Mm-hmm. So it was a different.
You didn't even want to go home.
You didn't. You was like,
you
oh
knew
my
you
God,
if you knew you were
mom's
seen.
friend. I
yes,
know.
You didn't
I
wanna
was
go
like,
home.
oh my goodness. I was like, are you?
Or can
serious?
I beat her home? At least it
I know.
wasn't cell phones. Can I beat her home before
And
she
tell-
get home
Yes.
and call my mom? You
And
know?
say, you know what? I'm gonna tell you, I'm snitching on myself. Mm-hmm. I'm snitching before you can have a snitch, and maybe that's gonna lessen.
Or the person might even tell you, I suggest you go home and talk to your mama.
Exactly. That's the worst pain.
Please don't make me call your mom. I will call her, but I want to know. I'm telling you to go home and talk to your mom.
Exactly.
You know? So,
that's the worst.
but no one, these people, things are distorted like that too. You can't talk to other people's children.
Nope.
People don't want you to say anything to their children. They want to come back at you when you've said something to try to correct their child's behavior. You trying to encourage and show some type of support to someone else's child. And instead of them getting on board with you and helping you in that support, they want to come and clown you about, addressing their child. So you can't say anything to other people's children. You can't say nothing to them about their children. And so that is another place where, at least when we were young, because I was a young mom too, but at least at that time, if you were lacking in something,
yes,
you had the elders to try to support you in what you were lacking in, and you were willing to listen. But we have a generation that's not willing to listen. Once again, that's a scriptural thing.
Yeah.
I understand we're not doing scripture today, and so that's fine.
Yeah.
But this generation is, this is a result of this generation, and it's written, and we see the reflection of what's being written. So I'm not surprised.
Me either.
I'm aware of what we're dealing with, because it's not just fleshly, it's something else that we're dealing with that is presenting these things to us. And so, it'll have to play itself out. But for those who, are interested in having something different and having something that could be meaningful, the suggestion that I would have is not to get yourself involved physically, especially for a female, just because of how emotionally connected
we are.
we get when we do that. And then, like he said, when you're emotionally immature too, because these young people,
Yes.
they're getting younger and younger.
and younger.
So-
I'm in love. You in love? Why? He
So
brought me a purse.
So when you are older and you're more mature, if somebody tells you that they don't want to be bothered with you anymore, you will accept that and walk away with your dignity intact.
Yep.
But as an immature person who gets involved physically before they're mentally capable of processing what is going on, when you give of yourself in that way, or financially,
Yep.
and
Because you
then
can have a
don't-
reverse,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Girls giving these dudes all this money, and their kids ain't got, their babies ain't got diapers, they ain't got no food, but he need.
He gonna flip it.
Yeah, flip it to what? And then he don't flip it, and
You don't get nothing,
Nothing.
back,
And-
and you running around. You can't do what you need.
I need to borrow
do
this, I need to borrow that.
at your mama and daddy house.
Yeah,
So I mean, but once you do that, if you're not mature enough to process, then you want to fight. You want to tear up stuff, and then people end up with records and they go to jail, and when they're more mature and they realize they want something more out of life, and then they want to pursue a job in specific fields that pay decent money, you can't get them because you got this domestic
yep. And then
on
it's-
your record.
And then what does that do? They're not to just. I mean, that affects what community? And I'm not saying it doesn't happen in other communities, but it's more prevalent in our community.
Mm-hmm.
And so, therefore, our young black men are stuck, and they're hurting too. They can't get a job. Not all of them don't. All of them ain't trying to just be on the street, but they get themselves, when they're younger, in situations that they can't finagle out, and it's over their head for the rest of their lives. And then that's how they're perceived.
And when you try to tell them when they're younger, they're not having the level of maturity to really process what
we're telling them.
Yes, for the future.
Yes.
And by the time they get there, then they've already done this self-destruct thing that's impacting them repeatedly. So, it's a lot of there's some things about these relationships that are community based as well.
Absolutely.
That affect us disproportionately as compared to other communities that have effects on relationships as well.
It's a cycle. It's a cycle. And only we can break the cycles. I mean, with relationships, because I think that I don't know if you just think of just different cultures. It's always this thing where women are subservient to men. I'm trying to figure this out. I know we shouldn't be talking Bible or scripture, but I do believe Mary and them were one of the closest to Jesus. They weren't his disciples, but they were the ones that
it was here.
It was the mental
The
mental connection they
emotions.
had.
Yeah, it was there. So you've seen a different side of the relationship that developed on an emotional level.
Not physical. It wasn't physical. And that physical can throw off.
Sometimes you can vibe with somebody so good on an emotional level
Yeah.
that if you just leave that physical out, until you can get to a space where that's appropriate. But for so many times, this is the first thing people trying to get
that's
to.
what
The
you're
first
doing.
thing
And then
you
you
meet
mess it
somebody,
up.
you
And
done
you
slept
mess it
with 'em.
up.
And sometimes whether you're male or female, you meet somebody you slept with them, and
I
then
do that?
why?
Why? I shouldn't have did that.
Please, just answer this. Have you ever slept with anybody and then you woke up the next day and said, why? Why did I do that?
Well, I mean, for me personally, I don't think so.
Really?
I'll be honest. I mean, I think I've been pretty much in long-term relationships my whole life. So for me, I've never been one of those people that would meet someone and not know them and get involved in that way. That's the truth.
Well, what's your definition of knowing?
Well, I think that when you get to know someone, whether you are just around them on a day-to-day basis, I don't think that I've ever really been involved with somebody physically that I did not have a good grasp of who they are. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
I mean, whether I know a lot about their family life. I know their upbringing. Because I know I used to go out to the bars and stuff with my friends when we were younger, and they would meet somebody and be talking about, hey man, I'm going with her tonight. I have never met someone, and thought that, because I believe that sexuality between a man and a woman is the closest thing you can be, closest place you can be with another human being. So for me, I don't take that lightly. I really don't.
So no one night stands.
No, there has never been a one night stand in my life. And that's the truth.
I'm
You don't
guilty.
believe that?
I'm guilty.
I'm in your family. We're gonna plead the fifth on both of us.
No, I'm serious. I think if I had some of my friends from 30 years ago come in here, they will tell you that Dack, he's telling you the truth. I have never had just a one night stand. Never.
I already know your answer. So. That's why I didn't ask
Wow. Wow. Okay, guilty on many tiers apparently. On many levels. Have you ever been in a relationship that didn't work out? And even though you haven't had the one night stand, you've been with the young lady and then decided,
Well, I do believe that I've been in relationships where, like what Nicole is saying, is that where we weren't ready for that. But to think that I've been like where because when we had that conversation with my son and his friend about people waiting for marriage, young people waiting for marriage, his friend made a profound statement on there when he said, something about when you're not ready to make a physical connection with someone, there's this sense of discomfort, and you can't even look the person in the eyes the next day because there's something within you that feels embarrassed or feels like you weren't ready for that with that person. So I do.
And I guess that's what I was asking you. Have you ever experienced that where you felt that discomfort, like I shouldn't have did that, or have you even stayed in a relationship longer than you should have because you had been physically connected?
Of course.
And you felt like you couldn't walk away?
Well, I think that's probably true with pretty much every relationship. You know what I'm saying?
Well, not for people who wait until marriage to have sex.
No, you're right. I don't think that,
not all of those work out.
No, they don't all work out, but I'm saying you don't have
It's a
that.
different connection.
When you lay down,
it's
you don't.
different.
You don't
Your
wake up the
foundation
next
is
day
different.
thinking,
Your
agree.
foundation is different.
I agree.
Because then I would say, no shade. I'm not throwing shade. So what caused those relationships to falter?
Well, I think going back to what you guys said earlier, a lack of understanding of the parameters of the relationship. Because I have expectations.
What are
and
your
I don't
expectations?
What are my expectations?
Yes, I want to know what your expectations are.
You guys weren't ready to
We're
invite us in.
we're ready to invite you in
Yeah,
since we've
yeah.
already transitioned.
All right, now.
And what are your? I want to know what your expectations are.
Well,
and we're gonna tell you if you're crazy.
no, well, let me just give you a little idea of how I came to believe, what I believe about relationships. See, I have this thing where I mentioned that when Steve and I were talking, I believe that in American society, especially in the black community in American society, girls are taught way too young to go into relationships with this idea that I don't need no man. And see, one of the most important things for me is I need to feel needed by a woman that I'm inviting into my life that I plan on being. I don't want you to go through life feeling like I don't need you. Now, see, and another thing that I've come to believe in my life as an adult is boys are taught from a very young age that we're here for service. A boy is taught from a young age, and a girl is taught the opposite. A boy is taught, hey, when you let the girl go first. A boy is taught, you open the door for the girl, pull the chair out for the girl. You get to be a teenager, you go out on a date. A boy is always told, you pay for the meal, you pick her up, you get out, you open the car door for her, you pull her chair out. So we've been taught and conditioned to serve women, in every capacity in a relationship. So what it is that I think for me, what works for me in a relationship is, for one thing, I'm somebody that believes in roles, and I believe a woman should cook. I do, and I know how to cook as well. It's not that I don't know how to cook, but I believe that as a woman, especially if you're raising children, I think that's something that a woman's responsibility is, to make sure her family's getting a good, nourishing meal. And I feel like it should be a prideful thing for her to do that. Just like it's a pride.
Okay, but why would? Okay, wait a minute. I'm sorry. I don't mean to. So I don't want us to get too far on what you think, and we forget to let's touch each basis, if that's okay with you. So, okay, the first thing where you were talking about being conditioned, I think this goes back to, I'm sorry, I'm bad with Nicole. When Nicole was saying that, Dack, you grew up in a 2-parent household. Mm-hmm. A lot of kids, and I say even our group, did not. So you had mothers teaching their daughters to be independent, because that was what was around them. See, that's why I think you talk about communities and times. Prior to our age, my grandmother and them, you had 2-parent households. The wife stayed at home. The husband went to work. Mm-hmm. So there was that expectation. You don't have that now. So maybe it's unfair to you, but you got a lot of single parents on both sides, men raising kids by themselves and women. So they're teaching them how to be able to survive in the society that's systemically set up for them to fail. That's the first thing.
Okay.
The second thing is, dang. I'm gonna let Nicole say something, because I can see it on her mind too. I want to breathe for a minute.
I agree. I mean, it's systemically set up for failure. I think that there is a way that you can teach your daughters to be able to take care of themselves and still understand that what's the way we're designed is to be with one another.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so in that respect, you do need another person. And I use the word need very lightly, because it gets distorted at times where people feel like then they can't survive on their own. So it's a fine line where, like, if you have to do this by yourself, I want you to be capable of doing this by yourself. However, we're designed to do this as a unit. So remember that the design is for unity, but in the event that you find yourself without a unit, then you need to be able to do this. So, in our community, I think, it's overboard. At least I can speak from my own experience. Now, I grew up in a 2-parent household, but then I found myself as a single parent, which was strange to me, because I grew up watching these two people, and they were young when they got together, mm-hmm. and they stayed together. And so I thought that that's what was normal. That's how things worked out. I didn't realize that that was the anomaly, and that really what you see is a lot of these broken homes, with single parents. And so when I became one, that was a foreign thing to me, and it was hard for me to adjust to. But I did raise a daughter who is self-sufficient and independent. But on the other side, I think we raise our sons weak and unsupportive. At least that's what I did. I coddled him too much, and I was very hard on her. Like, you need to be able to do this. I need you to be able to take care of yourself. And with him, I didn't do that. And I see where then you prepare these women to have to carry the load, you know, and it's really unfair.
It is.
It's really unfair.
But I think now, for me, and I'll say this because it's not mess with you, because I do get what you're saying. There has to be a give and take, you know. But for me, it was different. My parents were together, but it wasn't the best household. My dad was very abusive. So but I was his angel. I could get away and do whatever, but it wasn't the best environment for me. So I put up walls. And that's where I say, when you meet someone, the communication, and when we're talking about, don't jump right into the physical, because you don't know what emotional walls are in that individual. And when you get into relationships, you then figure out and find out you have to start breaking down walls that you didn't know. They may have nothing to do with you. But because there are internal things that individual maybe that young girl was sexually or physically abused as a child. There is a wall, and that is gonna come on you in the relationship. You're gonna have to be able to bypass that wall. But if you're coming at, this is what I want you to do, this is what I want you to do, this is what, no, I'm just saying, I'm not saying that that's what you're doing, but it goes back to, do you really know that person? And you can't know that person if the physical has already got involved and blocked. That's why we say women are emotional, men are physical.
Because then when you find out these things, right?
You change your whole perspective,
maybe you
right?
find out, you might find out some things that if you found them out prior to getting involved in a physical way, you might have said, let me, move away from this. This is a little bit more than what I can deal with.
Absolutely.
But because you've already been physically involved, you want to continue to try to invest in a situation that may be beyond what you can invest in it. So you may end up finding out 5 years down the line what you could have addressed on day one.
Exactly.
Or 30 days in.
Before you said I do, or before you moved in together,
yeah,
and you had kids,
together.
And stuff, and then you're like, oh man, we are different.
Very
you got some issues. Oh, you got some hang-ups.
Things that would have exposed if you just would have given it a little bit of time.
And then but then once you do figure those things, you have to put in the work. That individual has to heal, and you have to heal. But what tends to happen is then other components come in. We start looking for that physical, back to the physical, or the emotional attachment from someone else. And then you got other things in it.
Created a whole nother
then
problem.
You done created a whole nother problem, because you and that individual will never.
No, because now your attention is divided.
It's
over here. And you can't focus on what you need to fix right here,
because
you've involved another individual into the situation.
Exactly.
Now that you've drugged them into it, and their emotions are involved, and you're trying to feed them emotionally.
Exactly.
And you're trying to feed your
and still trying to fix what you got at home.
And what they're both situations are going to suffer. Both situations, because you can't give what you need to give to either one of the situations because you're divided.
Yes.
Your attention
a
is
house
not
divided
focused.
will fall.
So yeah, I mean there's so many directions
you could go, but
it all, you know what it all leads back to? Getting involved with somebody physically.
Yeah.
And creating this soul tie, right?
Yeah.
And you haven't really gotten to know them on the emotional level to the point where, you get to that fork in the road and you're debating about where to go, where it wouldn't even be a question for you if you hadn't gotten physically involved.
Exactly.
You wouldn't even question it. You wouldn't even
question
because
it.
I've done both. I've dated people who I never had a physical relationship with, and ran across something that was a red flag, and immediately I was like,
Yeah.
You know what? I'm not doing nothing else with this. I had got to a point where I decided I wasn't having no more kids. I had 2 kids. I didn't want no more kids. Both situations, I found myself having to do this independently, and I said, I will not bring another person into this world. And it was for two totally different reasons that I found myself doing it independently. But I said, anything could happen. He could step off of a curb and
Yeah.
get hit by a car. So I don't want to do this by myself no more. I'm not going to have another child. And I went out on a date with a guy, and we're just having a conversation. And I said, so do you want more kids? And he said, oh yeah, I would love to have some more kids. And I said, oh, and we just continued on right there. That moment, I knew this ain't going no place else. We gonna pay this bill,
And we
we
gonna go
be
our
done.
separate ways.
Because I'm not. I don't even want to, and I don't want to get connected to you to the point where what I've already decided begin to question what I've already decided that I want for myself. And that was what you were talking about at the beginning of the conversation, where you said, now that I know what I want,
Exactly.
I can better convey that to the next person, and we can connect on a better level. I knew what I wanted. I didn't want no more kids. I don't want nobody trying to change my mind. The other thing that I had decided is I will not date a person who does not have kids. Why? Because I think
They
if
don't
you're willing to
understand.
help me raise mine, that you probably want some of your own.
Yep.
And it would be unfair to me not to be able to give that to you if I expect you to help me raise these ones. So because I already know I don't want any more, I'm not going to do that to somebody. They might tell you because they don't know what they want. So they'll tell you, oh, no, if you say you don't want no more, they like you, they'll say they don't want no more, especially if y'all done slept together. I really don't. I don't want no more
Exactly.
kids. No.
And and that's true, because my son is about to get married. He has no kids, but his fiance does. And that was a question my mom asked. Will you have a child? And I know my son wants kids, but are you going to give up what you want because right now you're in that physical? I'm not saying he doesn't love her.
What did the young lady say?
She said yes. She said she would be
will.
willing
Oh, okay.
to have another child. But
But are you
that's-
just saying that because
but see, and that's where he's gonna have to figure that out, because like I said, I was a teen mom. I told myself I wasn't having any more kids until I got married. So that mean what? No physical. Now I'm not saying me and my husband haven't been on a roller coaster, but we're still together because I do believe we eliminated that physical, and I know he has his issues, but I'm a handful. And I'm going to admit that. I'm a handful. I had issues. I had hang-ups. I had things. I had walls. But I knew without a shadow of a doubt he loved me.
Now, see, that was the thing, too. When we got married, I knew this person ain't marrying me because I'm his baby mama.
Exactly.
This person is marrying me because he truly loves
Loves you.
me. I don't have to question that. We don't have no kids together. He want to marry me because he wants to marry me.
And he loves your children.
Yeah. And so that was, like, whew.
That's a whole big relief. I mean, because I don't think sometimes people understand love is a word people like to use, but I don't really think they know what it means. Because love means to love someone unconditionally. When they won't cook, when they won't take out the trash, when they mess up their money and they check don't come home, do you still love that individual, and can you still lay down with them and then get up, me as a wife or whatever, still cook him breakfast or whatever? Love is that word that I think young people use because it sounds good, and old people use it because
It's comfortable.
it's comfortable. And a lot of times I think people say it because they think it's going to lead to the physical.
Oh, yeah.
I love you, baby. On both parts, not just men, because some of these young girls have agendas too.
Yes.
So it ain't all
Yes,
on y'all.
yes.
They have some agendas, and they trying to figure out where they can get that next purse, their nails done, their hair done, and he does this, he does that. So I'm not even trying to put it on, because this generation we dealing with now is I'm confused.
Oh, I am too. These babies, these
I'm-
baby mamas, they leave
I'm
these babies
confused.
on these daddies and walk off, and
I'm confused. I'm just
so when you
confused.
talking about tradition, this
no
is no
tradition.
tradition with these people. These kids get left with these dads. I can remember thinking, I wish these dudes would help with these kids the way they supposed to. Now these girls,
The dads are a little more better than the
Yeah.
moms.
willing to take them, spend time with them. The moms is mad when you want to bring the kids back. They
Yeah.
not ready yet. They
Yeah.
was
Or vindictive.
yeah, that
Or
too.
they can be vindictive when you got in a relationship and you're in. Oh no, my kid can't be around her. Excuse me. That doesn't even make any sense. But I mean,
And that's the other thing that can change a relationship too. When you have children, whether they're your own or they come with the
have to be treated the
relationship.
same.
Well, but I was thinking that kids can have an impact on the relationship if the parents are having, they're not on a uniform plane about what they want to do with the kids when there's an issue. That can have, impacts and growing pains on a relationship. And that's really things that people should talk about too before if they have children, what they expect out of, each set of kids and,
Yeah.
how we're going to deal with these issues if they come up. I think people don't realize the type of things that you can experience, and kids can be the detriment. They can be the killer of a relationship.
Especially because you don't know if that child has their own issues
And agendas.
Of why my mom and dad couldn't stay together, why he with you, or vice versa. And then don't bring in your own kids. That's a whole, if you decide to have kids together, that's a whole nother.
And everybody's watching. The kids that was already here on both sides is watching what we doing with this kid
This
that's
one in the
between the two of y'all.
Yeah.
Is that one better than the
the
rest
other
of
one.
us?
And that throws a whole nother wrench.
And that's the thing too, or the kids that, in our situation, we had a set of kids that was already outside of the house and a set of kids that was in the house, and you want to make sure that you're doing the same things that you did for the second set that you did for the first set, because and sometimes you can do more for the second set because you
You're in a
have
different
more.
I
You
know.
have different.
I get that all the time when my youngest, my baby boy. They say, oh, but he came in at a time when I was doing a little, I was
had
making
a
a little
little
money.
something.
I
Yeah.
was doing a little better. He wasn't dealing with the 22-year-old mom. He was dealing with the 30-year-old mom that had grew and progressed and knew what she wanted.
Financially better, manage her money and everything else. Have a little bit more money to manage.
And so he benefit. Oh, well,
You
doesn't
know-
mean I love you any different.
And that's something that her and I have talked about, something as we sit back into the diagnostic, with the kids and stuff. My conversation with her is I said, sometimes I think my older kids don't realize we were growing up together.
Yes.
And they went through the growing pains being a young father, teenage father. We grew up together, matured, grew up together as I matured. Now I'm at top pay at my job. I'm more mature. I'm walking in a different way. There's a lot of things that I'm not going out to the club. I don't need a new pair of Jordans myself as well.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? So,
Yep.
so the money management is different. The maturity is different. You're seeing me in my maturity now that I've come out on the other side. You were growing up with me. And the good thing is the relationship with the older kids is good enough that all of us can sit around, man. If we're in the bedroom, they're sitting around. My older kids are more liable to sit around and listen and talk to her and hug her and kiss on her before they leave the house. Now they're gonna come to me as well. Dad, love you. I see you. Woo woo. And then they're off. But I really love the relationship they have with her. There's dialogue.
It's important.
It's not unusual for my wife and I. They'll come over. Come through the garage, come in the house. My wife and I will be sitting up watching TV in the room, sitting in the bed, laying across the bed. And our kids show up, even the older ones. My kids are 37 and 38. And they will sit with their legs folded around the bed on the floor and sit there and listen to us and just talk, or stand in the room and just talk. We have that type of relationship that in the bedroom, the love is so real, for everybody, that they come to that most intimate spot where her and I make our business decisions, our life decisions, what we're going to do next, how we're going to go about this. They're welcome into that nucleus and feel comfortable. All the kids, grandkids, nieces and nephews. And that's the type of environment that I've always wanted to have the relationship, I should say, have the type of relationship that fosters that type of environment, because that's what I was used to from my grandparents' house, and I've always called it the house of love. No matter how wealthy or well off their kids were, they came back there to the relationship my grandparents had and the familiar thing that was going on, the environment that was being fostered. Even relationships, things being discussed, whether it was be a sibling relationship or hearing my grandmother said, you know, you guys chose to be in that relationship. I wouldn't know this other person if you didn't bring around me in love. Now I expect you to work out these problems in the same way. And if you can't, the love should at least remain. Love and respect should remain, even if you can't work it out.
Yeah.
But you brought them into this environment, and when you get them close to me, this is what you need to hear. With that being said, I think that those are some of the things that are missing, that are not being cast down to the younger kids on how to have a relationship. If I may be a little more transparent and have a testimony, a friend of mine was divorcing. I'm trying to not say male or female. They were divorcing. And at that time, they wanted to talk about the spouse very badly. Went back to grandma's situation. I can't have you talking about that individual like that, because now I love them. You brought them around me. I seen how they made you feel. This is how you introduced this relationship to me in. I'm not going to let you sit there and talk about it, because all you're doing is watering and fertilizing something that's bad.
Bad soil trying to,
And then I said, now is the point in time in your relationship, since you have a son and a daughter that are in the household with you. What you have to do now is show them, individuals, male and female, the male, how it is, the behavior, the conversation, the whole thing, what it is when people break apart. More importantly, since that girl is younger, she's got to know what the end of a relationship looks like, healthy. And what you don't want to do for male or female is to show them the venomous, poisonous, caustic part of breakup in a relationship.
Especially with their parents. Especially with their parents.
Because you will take it into your next relationship. Because the male or female in the relationship to be role modeled by the younger male or female. So if you're going upside her mama's head, she's liable to let somebody go upside her head, because that's what we said love was.
But that's what we were saying. You it's so important of the communication and knowing that individual before you walk into that relationship, because all of us have different things. But I know one thing we didn't touch is keeping family out of your relationship.
Yeah.
We didn't touch
that's
that.
the other thing. Yeah.
Family has to stay out your relationship, because you and her could get into it, and you bring in your family, you bring in your kids, you bring in your no, I'm just saying, people do that. And then when y'all make up, that outside circle still messed up. Mama's got to stay in their roles, because my boys are mama's boys. I need to stay in my role. I'm not. That's his wife. She got to stay in her role. Daddy's got to stay in their role.
So now we got roles.
No. When it comes to family and bringing
being in
relationships,
yeah.
yes, you
like
do.
You don't want a mother who is so much of a mother of her son that she's meddling in her son's relationship. You can't. I have
Edifice complex.
We all have children, and they all have relationships.
Yes.
And and my son-in-law will call me. That's how much faith he has that I'm going to not.
You're gonna be biased.
Yes. That he'll call me and discuss things with me, and I'll say things to him. My daughter will say things to me too, and I try to give the type of advice like, you are married, and I would never tell you to allow somebody to mistreat you, but if these are things that you all can work on, y'all have these children together. This is not a throwaway thing. This generation feels like, get married, if it don't work, I'll just throw it away and start over again. Get married, if it don't work, I'll just throw it away and start over again. No. marriage is tribulation in the flesh.
Exactly.
And so what that means is there's going to be ups and downs. It's an investment. It's like property. When this wall break down, you're going to have somebody come out and repair it. When you need a new floor, you're going to have somebody come and lay a new one. You need carpet, you're going to have somebody. If you don't, what's going to happen to the house? It's going to fall apart. Same thing's going to happen in a relationship. They require maintenance. And sometimes it's all on you. I'm shelling out money. We shelling out money right now to get things up to par in our home. That's on us. Hopefully the home can give us back the warmth and comfort that we desire from the home. That's why you invest in it. And it's the same thing with the relationship. You invest in the relationship hoping that the dividends will be the warmth and comfort that relationship is supposed to provide, that it must have provided at one time, or you wouldn't have
never
been
got
in
in
the
a
first
relationship.
place.
And when you bring other people in it, it convolutes it. Because if I go to my mom, I'm giving her my story. He don't go to my mom. She's only hearing it from my point of view. And I'll say this, I don't know if you feel this way, Nicole. Moms can be very, 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 very overprotective of their sons. And so I've learned, I know my boys. I know he did it.
Mm-hmm.
I know he did it.
Yeah.
You know,
Me too.
but then
Me
you want to come at that girl and you want to just be moms need to stay in their role. Dads need to stay because dads are with their dads tend to slide to the girl.
Yes.
They need to stay in their lane. And if you're gonna have a conversation, you have it together.
Yes.
You do never. I tell my son, nope, where's she at? Y'all come over and talk to me and your dad together, because there's always two sides to it. So you may go to counseling on an individual basis, but eventually you got to come together because it never works out, and parents can cause relationships to fail.
Indeed.
Because I know if I said, if my daughter came to me and I said what she wanted to hear, because at the time, it's all about getting what you want to hear. At the same time, she knows that I'm going to keep it real with her. But if I told her the things that she wanted to hear at the moment that she wanted to hear it, then that would sanction her to do whatever she wants to do.
That sanctions her to leave the marriage, have a side piece, do whatever. And not physically, but you can have an emotional side piece. Do whatever. Start not being, and vice versa for him. Parents say, I learned that early on in my marriage. Nope, I ain't telling you nothing. We gonna figure it out. Because if I stay, you gonna have a preconception of that individual.
And I told my nephew,
and it destroys the whole network.
I told my nephew that when him and his wife were first getting together, he would come and complain. I said, I'm gonna tell you, sir, that if you plan on being with this woman, then you're going to have to stop coming back to us and reporting every little thing that she do. Because when you let that go, we hold on to it.
Exactly.
And we hold that grudge, and we're upset with her, and we don't, now when we come around her, we got to be fake. We got to be fake in order to, When
you fry chicken and fish, that stench stays in there.
Yes.
And that stench stays in parents.
It does.
How dare you do my son like that?
Siblings.
How dare you do my brother like that? No, you got to be careful with that. It destroys relationships. Sometimes you can make it, but you can't make it because you put people in there that you shouldn't put in there. You know how to make a cake. You can make a recipe. But when you throw stuff in there that's not supposed to be in that batter, you ain't getting a good cake. Keep people out your relationships. Keep people out your marriages. Keep them. Now, it's different if he beating you up and you need help. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about because he said I didn't cook for him. I tell this funny story. When me and my husband first got married, we got into this big argument. It couldn't even been 30 days. And we're in church. And I told y'all I like to cook. So I ain't cooking for you nothing. I was so mad. I was so mad. And he's like, we end up calling his grandmother. And she's like, now I know Jim made you mad, but I'm going to need for you to go cook. She said, because you still gotta eat. And Ashley still gotta eat. So you go cook. She said the worst thing you could do is not cook and he have an excuse. But if you cook, even if he don't eat it, you cooked it.
Mm-hmm.
And if he don't eat it, he can never say, ever say, she didn't cook for me. James Robert Theophilus Logan can never, ever say, I ain't cooked for him.
I can attest for that. I've been around long enough to know.
But it's
she
those
does.
little things. It's those little things that's what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. It's those things there are certain things you have to know. Don't give them the reason.
Yeah, you learn it. You learn it. You know, when it's initial, you want to fight, you want to go back and forth, whatever.
Exactly.
Eventually, you learn it. You learn, like, well, I'm just not going to say nothing. Or I'm going to go ahead and do what it is that I'm supposed to do in this situation. That works out better for me every time. You know, I can almost count on, it took some time, but I can almost count on if it's something that he is wrong about, that's how he's going to come back and admit that he's wrong about it. If I don't press it, if I just leave it alone and let him, you know, and it's almost like he's going to come to it faster than he ever would if I just kept pursuing it. If I just leave him alone and just be like, okay, well, you think that's okay? That's,
and this is
and then
sometimes
I'll just go on doing all the things that I'm supposed to do. Are you hungry? Can I get you something to eat? I'm going out. Would you like me to pick you something?
Exactly.
Whatever it is. Or did you do this? Or would you like me to do that? Can I? Whatever I would have normally been doing.
You shouldn't change that.
And that's what I do. And then, you know, it's almost like clockwork. He'll be like, baby, you know.
Exactly.
And I'll be like, of course I know.
Softy.
He's not a softy, but no, I'm saying, like, y'all be like, you know, his friends, you know, they all, and Steven, you know, he presents me in a very respectful light to everybody. You know, whatever we might be going through at home, we could have just went through something. When he arrived to wherever y'all is at,
you'll never know.
You'll never know.
And that's how it should be.
Yes, that we just had this issue. And I try to do the same thing. He might have lit me up in the car on the way to work in the morning, and I'm mad. But when I go in the building,
that's all. It has nothing. That's
two different places. Yes.
Yin and yang.
So I go in there and I do what I'm supposed to do in there. You know, and so I can never. They think though that because he always presents me positive, that means that we don't have any issues or that. He don't never, he's soft, he just do whatever I want him to do. And that is the furthest thing from the case. He does not do whatever I want him to do. You know, he is not bending to my every whim. I promise you.
He knows I'm just messing
I
with
promise you, he's not bending to my every whim. I promise you. You know, but he's, you know, he's definitely good about that. You know, whenever, you know, we're on display, and I think that's both of us. He could have just made me so mad or said something, but when we on display, we're on display, and not in a phony way either. It's just that your business don't need to be on the street like that.
Not one to
because once it gets on the street, it's hard to get it off.
Yes, right.
It's hard to get it off, so you gotta be careful. I mean, it's relationships. As she said, we were meant for each other, but we also have to learn each other and know each other. And it's more than just the physical. If you say you love someone, you gotta know, you gotta love them
when it ain't physical.
When they're broken, and you need to help rebuild them. Or if you broken, she needs to help rebuild you. There's so many different facets to relationships, but it comes to that unconditional love. Not when you get other things involved, I just think it gets so convoluted. And if you really love someone, I mean, you will do whatever you need to do to make it work. But I think when you raise your hands and you're done, was that love ever there? That's the question only you can answer. I can't answer it. James can't answer it. James can't answer it for me. I can't answer it for him. And the same. Because it's work. You go to work and you have issues, but you still get up and still go to that job. They may not be treating you right, they may not be paying you right, but you still go. And you mean to tell me you can't put the work in to someone you say you love? I have a problem with that. Because nobody is perfect. Nobody. And if you can only see what I do wrong, there's a problem right there.
Yeah,
There's a problem right there.
And that's the thing that when I do just say, well, let me go on and do this the way I would normally do it, that's the thing that I'm looking at, that I'm imperfect too.
Exactly.
I make mistakes too. Today I might be correct today, but there's days that I'm not correct. And so I have to remember that, and he gets to have days that he's not correct too.
And we have to acknowledge those. We have to acknowledge them.
Yeah.
It's okay to say, baby, you were right. And he may do it in the most subtlest way. And it may just be, I went to the store. Oh.
I think if men could hear that a little bit more often, maybe
you guys got to do it too. I don't just see, but that's the thing. You can't just say, because you both
I rarely ever get an apology.
Dack, you can't be wrong. I love you, and you know I do. But you guys, come on, we not gonna go there.
Can I ask you guys to touch on one thing from your perspective? Is the expectations of sex in a relationship, and like the frequency, and when one's feeling it and the other one isn't, how you deal with that?
Oh, that's not a good question for me, because I mean
it's important on both ends. But I think that there will be times when there is a situation where one's feeling it and one's not. I think there will be times when one person will have to accept no and it not become a major issue. And there's so many things as you get older, Justin. I know you're a young strapping man right now, so I know that these questions are burning sensations for young men
and girls nowadays.
I'm really just curious, as like my relationship grows with my girlfriend, is like what kind
I
of
think
things
you'll
can
see
we-
ebbs and flows. I mean, I think in the beginning everybody's eager to be a part of one another, and I think for women it might wane a little sooner than it does for men, or two, as we get to know one another. Like I said, sometimes our operation is more emotional than physical, and so if we're disturbed about something emotionally, if
it's hard for us
if
to
you
give you the physical.
blew me off about something yesterday that was important to me, that might sit with me, and I know that sex is important to you in a physical way, and I'm thinking to myself, they couldn't nurture me the way that I needed to be nurtured. This is the way that they want to be nurtured. They starving me in this way, I'm starving them in that way. And it's not appropriate. That's something that needs to be communicated about, but it's one of the things that happens as relationship grows. I think in the beginning, people are so eager to please one another that they allow things that might normally hinder their behavior.
Yes.
They overlook it because they're so eager to please one another. And then as that time goes on, your eagerness isn't as strong as it was. You wanted to be compensated on both sides. You want it to be a give and a take. And sometimes if you're not feeling that give and take, I think women know that a physical way is a way that they can
Get
reach
your
their
attention.
partner. They can reach their partner.
And you
And
have
I
to-
think that they're able to stave it off for longer than men. Yeah.
And you have to realize too, each of us go through phases. Women hit a different peak at a different point in their life than men, so the roles do reverse.
Yeah, men they go through it too.
Reverse. And it's not uncommon for a man to say, I need to sleep. I mean, it is. So, but it's like Nicole said, I think that you just have to, and then as you grow in your relationship, different things will come into the basket.
Medical things can happen too that can have, an impact on that. You could be on a medication. You know, you might need a surgery.
Yep.
You know, different things that can impact having children. That's another thing. You know, you have kids, and I'm so focused on taking care of these kids and getting them together.
Forget about
And
the
now-
husband or vice versa.
Well, they have to learn how to balance it.
Balance
So
it.
there will be a time period in there where you're going to feel neglected. A man will feel neglected. That like these kids is getting all these attention, and they may even feel a little jealous of their children, you know, because they feel like these kids is getting all their attention and there's nothing left for them. Now, a way that you can adjust that is to offer as much assistance as you can with the kids so that she has an opportunity to get some rest, and then she's more likely to want to participate in physical activities at a later time.
It's not always true. I came in the room, she was asleep already. I was out there helping. I was out there helping my behind off.
You can set time aside too.
Yeah, you can talk about it. You gotta say something though too. Like
If
don't
we don't
just
know, we don't.
Yeah, don't let it
'cause
just bother you
women
and
can
not
just
say
be like,
nothing.
it's not about the physical. So women can go much longer than men. So in a lot of cases, and it doesn't.
They
it
don't
doesn't
think nothing
take
of it.
and it doesn't take away their love or whatever. It's just, you know. So it's about communicating what each other's needs are.
Yeah, they might not have never even known it was an issue. You're thinking to yourself, she rolled over on me 3 times this week. I was trying to rub her, and she was like,
yeah.
you
Or
know.
some, it may be like, some women may be like, when I roll over, that means I'm ready. You know, I mean, you've got to know that partner. You got to know that partner. You got to know what your needs are. But if you do not communicate about it, then there's a whole nother can you're gonna open.
It's, you know, things fester in
Yep,
non-communication
and then you get mad.
periods, and what you're thinking may not even be the case. But you've now let this fester. You didn't say nothing about it, and it's festering and festering. And then when it comes up, one, the person may not even know what you're talking about because you let the situation go so long. Or 2, they know what you're talking about, but you're totally so far off base about what you were thinking. And if you would have and they explained it to you and you realized you were off base, and you're telling yourself, dang, I just put myself through all this emotional turmoil, keep thinking about this. And if I would have just said something when it first hit me, then we could have communicated on this. And that's the thing about sex. You know, it might be bothering you. You don't say nothing. You don't say nothing. Then it explodes. And she's like, well, it wasn't bothering me, so I never even noticed that it was bothering you. I was just tired, or I didn't even think to say nothing, or, you know, you used to approach me, you don't approach me anymore.
So
well,
did I do something wrong? Are you not attracted to me? It may be the littlest thing that you didn't even think about, and it explodes, like Nicole said, into this situation to would have just been like, you would have been like, oh, I thought you didn't like that. No, I like when you do that. But you don't know that. Because as I say, it's a process. You change. And as you change, your needs and your wants change. And you have to be able to have that conversation. Sex is an action. It's a bonding. It's when you guys become one in a whole nother level. But it can get frayed if other things outside of it is not functioning properly. Mm-hmm. A woman, I'll tell you right now, like Nicole, if you mess with her emotion, you're not getting none.
Well, from a man's perspective, I kind of think that, I mean, it becomes real toxic in a relationship, because I feel like when a woman gets to the point where she's withholding sex, you know, that's going to push me. I mean, I'm going to become distanced from her. You know, I mean.
But I think that's her way of being distant from you. Like,
no,
I'm withholding. Why am I withholding? Yeah,
well,
there's
that's what
a
I'm
reason.
Saying.
So
but why does it always have to be that there's like there's something with her? You know, like she's withholding. You know, if a man withholds his check,
they do,
or he withholds
they
the things
do.
that are important to the woman.
He might be doing that, and that might be why she's withholding. See, I mean, everybody's situation is different, but if you like you said, if he withholds his check, that maybe he tricked off his money. Maybe he didn't spend his check the way he was supposed to. Maybe he allowed extracurricular activities. And now that she said, maybe she let 3 or 4 days go by. And then she said to him after his payday, 3 or 4 days later, is you going to get this bill? And then he made some kerfuffle about it because he really don't have the money and he done overspent on some foolishness. Yeah. Okay, and she's thinking about, how am I going to get this money to pay these bills? And that's what's on her mind. And now tonight you want to have sex. Well, I don't want to have sex. I'm thinking about how I'm going to get this bill paid. And
it all comes down to communication. But like I said.
So if you said to me, I mean, it still could happen that way. Or if you said to an individual, if somebody said to somebody in that situation, you know what, I messed off my money. And you might be in a better position to present for that activity later, and I messed off my money, and let's figure out how we gonna get that taken care of. Yeah. Let me see if I can do something to address getting that, take that off her mind, so then what you want to put on her mind can be there, or there'll be space for it at a later. It can go the other way too. Right. It's not just the woman. It can go the other way too. Men could do it another. I'm expecting certain things to take place in my household. Certain things don't take place in my household, then I'm not interacting in the household. And they can distance and withhold in an emotional way. Because that's what she wants, that emotional activity. He ain't talking, he giving her the silent treatment. You know what I'm saying?
Go straight to his room.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes the man gets the gets cut off physically, gets cut off emotionally. The woman
both
doesn't.
Both do. See, you keep trying to make
looking at it from one perspective.
Mm-hmm. But both do. If it's a give and it's a take. If she's taking something, you taking something. Or if she's giving something, you pulling. Or it's.
But if you see that the behavior is different, like something changed, we're not presenting the same, then let's talk about this and figure out why we're not presenting the same, instead of sitting back thinking about what all could be making people need to talk to each other and figure out why we're not presenting the same. You might find out I'm not presenting this way because of it. And like I said, it could be something else. I might be on, it's several medications out here that people are on for depression and things of that nature. It changes your sex drive. So people don't have the same drive that they had before. Or if you suffer from depression, there could be periods of time where your sex drive, and instead of, it's non-existent because this is your depression period. That's part of knowing somebody.
That's part of. That woman was abused sexually as a child. She may already have issues with sexual interaction. Does she really know what that means? So it may become it may be in the back of her mind. But it's not fair. I'm not saying, I don't believe no one should withhold it.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm kind of getting at.
I don't think you should withhold it, but you got to figure out what's causing it.
It's not appropriate to withhold it, but sometimes you're not intentionally withholding.
Unless you tell me.
Well, for me, that's when I feel like when I'm in a relationship and it's a it's a healthy relationship sexually, that's when I'm closest. You know what I'm saying? And if you like Toya was saying, if that little string gets frayed, what I feel you're gonna end up doing is you're gonna push me to a place where, because if that's not being met with me at home, you're going to push me into a place where I will seek out what the things that I need in other places.
I have a problem with that. I literally have a problem with that. Because when you're saying that, you're going back to what we originally said. Sex is the driving factor of the relationship.
That's just one thing.
No. If she's withholding sex, or if he's withholding sex, what got them to that point?
You need to figure out.
You're not figuring that out.
You already got in your mind. Like I said, these young people out here are saying, if the relationship don't work in a couple years, I'll just get a divorce and move on. What you just said right now is, if she ain't putting out the way if she's not having sex the way I want her to have sex, I will seek it out in some place else. So you already got in your mind how you gonna address it. Really, the first the first thing that you should be thinking is, I'm going to try to figure out what's going on between me and this person before I would ever include another individual in our situation.
I understand that. I do.
You know,
I'm not talking about the one time where you're in the mood and she pushes your hand away. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about long stretches of them using every excuse they can possibly use to not, you know.
So how do you get to the bottom of that though?
What
You try to get to the bottom of it?
But okay, see, when it comes to the shortcomings of women,
no, see,
there always has to be a cause though.
But men do it too.
Maybe it's her cause, it's her own mind.
It might be,
but are you having a conversation about it?
But that's what I'm saying, Dack. It could be just her, but you need to find out what it is before you would go outside of your relationship. It might not be your fault. It could be, like I said, she could
but
have
a woman
depression.
can leave them. She may have left the relationship mentally and emotionally long time.
She might have, and you need to find
because
that
something
out.
I'm doing, huh?
No, it may not have nothing to do. It literally may not have nothing to do with you. It could be something else.
So if it doesn't have anything to do with me.
No, listen, it could be something else, that, and unfortunately, she's pushing it off on you.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying that's fair, but let's not get into that's all women do. Men do the same thing.
They do. I'm not saying that.
So then what she said not too far back was about the love. If the love is really there the way that it's supposed to be there, then you want to find out what's wrong with the person. It could be just them, or it could be a connection between y'all, or whatever the case may be. You want to pursue it and try to figure out what's wrong. If it's something that can be fixed between y'all, then you want to address that. But I mean, like you never adding another person to the situation. I'm
just giving things from a man's perspective.
I know. I agree.
I put it like this from a man's perspective.
Not in some men. All men aren't like that.
Okay, not all men. Some men. Just this man at this time. Do you want your girl to give you some? Do you want her to make love to you? Or do you want her to out of you?
No, well, see, for
well, I'm just asking you. Just answer the question.
Well, I mean,
give you some, make love. Or,
well, of course, I want the latter, Steve.
All right, then. So then we're gonna have to address some of these issues, because if she's not feeling right and she just roll over and give me some, am I getting the best version of her? You know, and I can only talk about within my relationship. I getting the best version of her. Now I can sneak in, squirt and scoop, right? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know.
Or you can come with, the fictitious, I'm going to make love to you, darling, and I can bend her over. I'm wasting all my energy to go in there and, beat it up. No,
what do you want?
The issue that I have is it does. In our society, it seems to be that all of the issues that cause problems in relationships seems to somehow in everybody's mind, even a lot of men, originate with something that the man did. I've watched Dr. Phil a million times. I watched all these other shows. A woman will come on there talking about she did this, she did that, she wants to leave the marriage, she wants to do this. And the first thing Dr. Phil will say is, what did you do? He'll point at the man and say, what did you do? Sometimes the issues in relationships are women.
But you're missing what we're saying.
No,
we're not saying that the issue cannot be her. What we're saying is you need to have the conversation to help her get to that place, so it is no longer an issue for either one of you. When it's her issue, it's your issue, and you are lacking because she has an issue, and the issue may not have anything to do with you. But if you're not willing, like Nicole said, to have the conversation and you bring somebody else into the picture, it's a bigger issue.
What if we've had the conversation?
Then maybe you're not right for each other.
Okay.
We go back to that physical. How did the relationship, what is the foundation of the relationship are? Because I can tell you this, there can be situations to where people are married and there's no physical and they are still in love with each other.
Well, I understand that.
So it like Nicole said at the beginning, her and Steven's relationship works for them. Mm-hmm. Me and James' relationship works for us. But if you do not have the communication, if it's all about the physical, you're already lost. Because a woman is not a physical creature. And a man is not an emotional creature. So how do the two intertwine?
So yeah, so like this, if I add, if she's saying he's not, he's paying bills, he's taking care of the cars, he makes sure the family is set up, and that's what he feels like his responsibility is, but he's not feeding me in an emotional way at all. But then he wants to have sex with me. And the man is thinking, well, I'm doing all these things. I'm paying these bills. I'm, taking care of this household. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But he's missing the one thing that'll be the key that opens her up for her to be able to.
Is it her responsibility to articulate?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's communication is a
communication.
two-way street.
But see, in a lot of relationships, I don't see that women. They just assume that a man is supposed to know what their needs and the things that are.
And I could say the same reverse and say, in a lot of relationships, I see men. They feel like I'm just supposed to know that this is what they want to do and be like, want to have sex all the time and just.
I don't know that.
We got to figure out how to connect about this.
That's
and
what Justin was
you're
saying.
not always going to meet my emotional needs, and I'm not always going to meet your physical ones, because you know what? That's what the product of two imperfect humans. Somebody's going to be unhappy at some time, or maybe it might not be all the way to the point of unhappiness, but somebody is not going to receive full satisfaction 100% of the time.
See, because if the roles are ever reversed, like say I'm at a point in my life where I seek a more emotional attachment, but the woman that I'm with seems to be more physically, and like you guys said, there's times where I just like, a man might just say, you know what, I'm not in the mood. I'm tired. I don't want to, See, I don't. When a woman is in a situation where she's the more sexually aggressive person,
Have you ever experienced that?
Well, I ain't gonna say that, but.
I've seen it, and I've seen people fight about it too. I seen, and I asked, "What's this fight about?" And the guy say, "Man, I wasn't trying to have sex, and she was trying to have sex,"
yes.
and it done
went to the whole.
That's right, and see, women are just when that situation is like that, where the man is he's just looking for more of a somebody to grow with emotionally and just mentally or whatever, and a woman is more on the physical. Women aren't too receptive of that either.
Well, you know what? There's this one thing I think that impacts women a little more harshly than it impacts men. No.
What do you mean?
The word no, because they don't.
Yeah,
in my opinion, I
think
men,
right?
I said no. Yeah,
men
women
like that
word. Women don't like that word.
No.
Women don't think. They think that everything that they do is 100. Yeah. So anything that they ask if they want, they should never hear the word no.
That's
and
true.
That can really impact your day, week, or month. Hearing the word no for any reason, because I'm the mother of your children, because I work too, because I should never hear no. And if that is really a thought that has manifested itself in you, should you ever utter
the word no?
That's a good point, Steve. I appreciate the.
This is the last time I'm gonna let you drag me down and get beat up. No, I'm playing. But seriously, the word no really does impact. All we hear is no.
I can agree with that to a certain extent. I do not, but this is how I feel, not because I'm the mother of your children or because you work too or whatever. When I generally do not ask for anything unless I really need it.
Oh, I got this.
So if I ask for it and I hear no, I do get pissed off.
I do too.
I do.
I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, I do get pissed
But
off.
you'll still get dinner. You may not get nothing else, but you'll still get
It might be pork and beans or something.
Yeah, hot dogs and chips tonight.
It would never be pork and beans because I don't eat beans, so you ain't gotta worry about
Hot
that.
dogs
I like
and
to
chips.
eat.
Well, you might make yourself a nice meal. Make me pork and beans.
I already told you the story when we
eat
first got
together.
married.
Yeah, we eat the same thing.
We gonna eat the same thing.
All
if
right.
I'm eating steak,
And that's
he getting
me. Yeah,
steak.
if I go out, I might be mad than a mug.
And
But if
I'm
I'm
still
going
bringing him
out to
something home.
I'm gonna ask you what you want. I'm gonna let you spend
that's
all
good,
whatever
'cause
you spend.
all women aren't gonna do that.
Yeah.
You know?
But he do the same thing to me. I know
Yeah.
he might be hot like fire.
Yeah.
Now this
And
is
then
the
he'll call
cook.
me up.
This is
What
the
you
cook.
want?
Yeah, yeah.
I start
I'm
my
getting
day.
ready to
I
stop.
start
What
my
you
day
doing?
out like that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but like I was gonna go back to like when you guys were talking about these young women today, you know, just sitting at work and you know on social media and stuff like that. I see a lot of these young girls doing so much, and to you know what they do is they value what a man can give them materialistically. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you know, I'm sitting here watching posts, and this is why I go back to what I believe about a man. When a woman gets I mentioned this before on the last podcast. When a woman gets an engagement ring and she wants to rush out and tell her friends, hey, you know, he asked me to marry. What's the first question that the woman usually gets from her friends?
Let me see the ring.
Let me see the ring. See, a man receives really no token of her love for him. You know, I mean, all we are here to do is, like I said, you guys feel like, hey, if I give him a little sex once in a while,
Do you
that's
want
it.
a ring?
Well, I think no. I'm not saying that a man needs a ring, but see, a woman needs to have flowers sent to her when you're courting and you're dating. She wants you to think about bringing her some chocolate home once in a while if she likes. You know, a man has to constantly be on alert as to how he's gonna make this woman happy. I don't think women ever have to spend any time thinking about what is it that I'm giving him other than some sex.
My husband is spoiled.
I was
I
going
know
to
that.
say. I was going to say. I worked
wait a
so
minute.
hard.
Maybe it's the woman, and maybe because she doesn't know what you need and want. It goes back to what Nicole said. No, my husband is spoiled. My husband is spoiled.
I will attest to Toya. I've been around Toya and James for many years. And I'm telling you, whenever I've gone to their house for dinner, or
Don't
whatever,
say I serve him, cause I'll make your
oh,
plate.
come on, Toya.
I'll
Now,
make your plate.
James is like the king of that house. Boy, he sits
No,
there
don't
like
get-
this.
okay.
That plate hits
Nicole,
right between those
Nicole.
hands.
Perception is everything.
Isn't it?
Perception is hindsight.
And when you're looking in at something
something-
that you might desire,
Exactly.
it looks really a lot more than what it is.
And what it really
and when you
is.
get it yourself, just like these marriages, you know, where these men think that, you know, they have these relationships with these women and they're really physical, interactive, and it starts out like that, and they think it's going to be like that for the rest of their life. And then they have children
And
and
it
it changes, you know, and then she gets a little, you know, she goes through menopause, you know, or gets a little older and it changes.
And men
it might
PMS
change.
too.
Yeah, or it might change for him. He might get some type of health condition that might make his sex
Yeah.
drive change.
You know, there's a drug for that, right?
You
What,
know?
men PMS?
No, where men need help too.
Oh,
Yeah.
well.
You know, so we all change, but I think them needing help usually comes so much later in life. And our periods happen, you know,
Sporadically.
yeah,
It's
like when
weird.
you have children, or if you have, you know, female issues of some sort, and they need to be addressed, or, you know, so maybe postpartum depression after you have the kids. You know, there's so many things that can impact the women, whereas a man, if he has, you know, ED or something like that, those things usually happen later in their life. And so they have not had compassion for these other issues. They just don't understand why, you know, you not
Yeah, you know, woo woo. I
getting
don't
your
wanna be
pom-poms
woo,
out
woo.
every night.
I can't be woo woo.
You get them pom-poms out every
You
night.
might get a
Sis
woo,
Boomba.
woo woo. You never know. But I mean, James, and when I say James is spoiled, it's not. We were literally. He just had a birthday, and I was like, I don't even know what to get him. I don't even know what to get him because I give him everything that he desires. I try to do that for him and vice versa, but it wasn't always that way. We got to that place.
And see, the things that you put on display for other people, like you said, you've been knowing them for a number of years and you feel like their relationship has been like this for a number of
But
years.
he knows the
But the
truth.
things that get put on display and then the things that happen, you know, behind closed doors are, you know, can be a little bit different. You know, and it's not to say that you think that they're perfect, but, you know, sometimes we have issues that we don't share with nobody else. We just deal with it within our home. You know, and so one thing I want to stress on this podcast is nobody is trying to present, oh, we got this thing all figured out and it's mastered and we know everything.
Absolutely.
No. What it is, though, is that we've been through some things, either in our current relationships or previous ones, that have helped us learn and educate ourselves about what we don't and what we do want to experience in our current position. It does take some maturity. It does take some experience to understand these things. But I think really, first of all, people, and it's not something that I did and mastered completely at the time that I got married, but really taking a look at yourself in the interim while you're not, hooked up with somebody, and figuring out who you need to be to deserve what it is that you think you should have.
Exactly.
Agree.
If you can do that, then what will present to you will even be different, because you will present different. And don't present like a service, Dack, because it's not supposed to be that way. I'm not. This man don't open doors or pull out chairs, and I didn't never expect him to do that.
During the courtship, he didn't do that?
No, and I didn't, because probably if I would have expected it, I'm not saying he wouldn't
Then
have
you
did
get
it for
upset.
me.
You get upset,
Yeah.
and we as women emotionally.
Well, see, I'm a person. I believe roles go both ways. Though I do believe strongly.
But why is that your
See,
role?
like, I'll put it this way: like when me and your cousin Leslie, we're
you about to get yourself in
no,
trouble.
but seriously, like whenever she has any issue with even with her house or car, like if for some reason something breaks down in her car, she's always been able to say, hey, my axle just broke on my car, and I would go take her my car, say here, and her problem instantly becomes my problem. She doesn't worry about it anymore. If her screen door is flying off in the wind, she'll say, hey, I need some, my screen door. She knows that, hey, if he's not gonna do it, he's got people that he's gonna get over here to take care of it for me. So so when I talk about roles, don't get me wrong, I don't expect a woman to do any more than I'm willing to give to her. But I do have high expectations of what it is that I want. I mean, I don't ask for much. You make sure that I come home, because and the way I look at it, just like I look at that is, that's what a real man is going to do. He's going to remove those worries of something like a car breaking down in the middle on the street. He's going to remove them from her. And see, the word, for me, I feel like a woman should have pride when she knows that, hey, you know what? Now, am I saying a man should never cook? No, I'm not saying that. But a woman, I feel like it should be a prideful thing to say, hey, you know what? I'm presenting my man with something that I put my heart and soul into this meal for him. And it's the same. So I look at it.
But Steven does that for Nicole.
I was gonna say you
But
find
he
somebody who has like-minded ideas,
Just like you.
because I would rather worry about how to get that screen door fixed or how to get that broken car off the freeway than having to worry about what we're going to eat for dinner every night.
Well,
I mean, that's just,
and I respect that.
I'm okay with, and so when you find somebody, so if it was, if personality wise, if you were meeting me and you presented these ideas to me,
you'd be like, where's that check?
I would, because we're not on the same page.
And that's
I'm
fine.
not, you know what I'm saying?
And that's
and
fine.
so, and if you can spend some time with somebody
lot of
and know
women-
these things in advance before,
A lot of women will say that they're that way, that they're independent, but when it comes down to it,
But you
They're
see
not.
those flags.
Yeah.
That I will tell you, anytime you're in a relationship, and when you're in that honeymoon stage, but after you reach that, you see those flags, but you think,
That
now
you can
Nicole,
fix.
correct me, you can fix them, or you can change them, or it will be different after we get married, and that does not happen. It does. Hear my words. It does not happen. You cannot change an individual. That individual has to want to change for themselves. Otherwise, you are going to butt heads. You're just going to do that. You can't change an individual.
And you could say to yourself, I like this about them, that about them. If that whatever it is that you don't like is a game changer, then you need to address it
walk
up
away.
front. And if it can't be, if they don't see things the way you see them, which I wouldn't see, I would never see it would be a prideful thing for me. When I do it, it is a prideful thing for me, but it's not something that I want to do on a regular basis anymore. So, for you are saying this, so make sure that you stand by it. It would be a game changer for you, a deal breaker.
I believe that everybody's flexible though, but I'm just saying those are things. I don't know that I have any the necessary game
You
changers.
do. I believe you do. I know, and I'm not saying that to be
And
funny.
it's okay to have.
okay.
That's what I'm saying. When you start, like right now, when you start
I'm
backpedaling on
What
that's
you
how
want
the
is
red
what you
flags.
want.
That's how they pop up.
Well,
And then you waffle on them, and then you
the thing-
find yourself in a situation
No, I
where
mean,
it's like, I'm responsible for my meals 4 days out of
But
7
I
days,
never-
and
but
I
I'm
don't
responsible for
So
my
like
meals
that.
now.
compromise. But no, let me just say this. Say you get something and you get that, and she says, okay, baby, I got you Monday through Friday, but can I have the weekend off?
I would be more than happy to say, hey,
So,
you know
but
what?
what
Not
happens?
only are you going to get the weekend off, I'm going to take you to 2 nice restaurants,
Okay,
Friday
but
and
she don't
Saturday
want
night.
to take she don't want to go to a nice restaurant. She just want to sit and chill with you.
Whatever.
But how do you get to that place? When Nicole said, communicate.
That's
And
right.
see, for me, I had to understand, before me and Nicole hooked up, I would not be in a relationship for 5-6 years because I wanted to figure me out. Out of all the other relationships I had in the past, no matter whether I thought I was the better half or the worse half in those relationships, I was part of those relationships, and I wasn't getting out of the relationship what I wanted or what I thought I was putting into it. So I had to take time off to evaluate me. Who do I need to be in order to have the type of person that I want to be with? What are some of the things that I'm going to have to work on? Let me find out what some of my shortcomings are and work there first. Stop using my strengths and start working on my weaknesses, because I have a vision of what I want the relationship to be. Not only for me and her in this situation, but for the kids, the atmosphere of the household, other people that were people of faith, other people that might be in need of just a conversation. Now, I can't have a healthy conversation with you if my relationship with her and conversations with her are unhealthy. So therefore, I had to work on Steven first, because I don't know if those relationships that didn't work out, I know some of them had negative impact on me. Mm-hmm. I must take ownership of the things I think that were done to me. Very capable of have done them to somebody, and want to gloss over them with the strengths. Well, I provide. If you need, if you want, I take you here. We do this. We travel. That's not really meeting the need or the emotional things that are needed. All I did was give you Facebook fodder.
Ooh, I like that.
Pictures for your phones that you could send to your friends where you're posing on the beach and stuff. That there is all aesthetics. It's nothing that's the inner compound or the inner workings. It's not the DNA of a relationship. So therefore, like you were saying and like she was saying, to tie the two together, I have to know what's wrong with me in order to be who I need to be for her, in order to conduct myself and facilitate myself in the type of relationship, in an appropriate manner, in the relationship that I want. Just like a business model, I had a vision. I had to create the mission. And then underneath that were the action items. The action items is, hey, babe, how was your day? Were you doing good? How's school? Well, don't worry about that. You got to be this time. We're going to figure out how to get an A. It's things like that. Those are the action items where I'm taking her pulse, letting her know that I'm out of your hair, but in your life,
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'm out of your way while you do your homework, but know it's something that I pray about. It's something that's on my mind, and this is something that you're going to hear words of encouragement. Am I going to be your educational coach, cheerleader every day? No. But you know me well enough that you know I have a prayer life. You know that you are part of that prayer life. You know you are have high priority in my life. This cat is going to address these things for me. Why? Because we had the communication on a deep level, and there's no need because the execution is being seen as well. I'll just step back.
So he said a lot in that brief moment, and I know, but I mean, I like the whole prayer about it. Sometimes we have to go to the basics, and like Nicole said, women are not perfect, and we know we're not perfect, but men are not perfect either. But how do we bring those imperfections together to make a beautiful unit with our imperfections?
Well, that's two songs that I reference when we get here. Her imperfections are perfectly imperfected for me. And when we came together, it was a beautiful collision.
See?
And just those two songs, those are just.
You guys' heart.
Well, no, I'm just not. Okay, first of all, that's her husband.
I know.
I like what he's saying because it's truth.
Oh,
It's truth. And I think we have to, when we get into what he's doing, what she's doing, what he's doing, you're missing the point Nicole said.
Life.
We're not none of us are perfect. And if you go into something thinking it's perfect, you already set yourself up for failure.
You're right.
So, and there's days, Dack is the best. There's days, Nicole is the best. There's days I'm the best, or Steven's. It doesn't matter, because there's a lot of days we just like, what?
I had my girlfriend, I sent her she sent me a picture of some food that she made that me and Steven had sent over to their house. He made up some stuff for her, and she put it together and made a meal out of it. And I sent her back and said, yeah, I made a pot roast today with carrots and potatoes. And she was like, oh, you're on top of it? I said, that's today. Tomorrow will be a whole nother different story. I don't know what's for dinner tomorrow. I haven't even thought about it.
Exactly.
And so that's the way it is a lot of days. I might get it right, hit the ball out of the park. Steven he called me the other day and was saying, I just want you to know that you did a fabulous job on XYZ, and I need you to know that. And I said, oh, thank you, but the next day, he might not feel like my job is so fabulous, but I'm glad he told me today that he felt like I did a fabulous
run with
job.
it.
Yes.
I'm running with it.
And he might get a fabulous job out of me 3 or 4 days in a row because he told me I did a fabulous job today. Some of that cheerleading, even at work, people tell you they don't tell you nothing at work, what end up happening. But the minute somebody says something nice to you at work, don't it make you work a little harder?
For sure.
You put in a little extra work, same thing. Same thing.
For sure.
And don't think James gives meals every night. And don't. I'm with Nicole. I give you good 4 meals. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I'm not cooking or whatever. But no, I'm just joking. But I mean, relationships are difficult. But you're dealing with 2 different individuals with 2 different mindsets, with 2 separate expectations, with 2 separate needs, with 2 separate goals, everything, backgrounds, everything. And you are meshing all this together to be a beautiful unit.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate the conversation today. We probably got to get ready to wrap it up. You guys got anything you want to close with, or?
Like
Oh,
I said,
thank you for
I'm
having
not.
us.
Yeah.
What would be your takeaway? What would you want somebody to take away? We're on Dialogue to Destiny. And if you young ladies had one takeaway apiece that, you wanted somebody to hear that may not have been, clearly conveyed, because we kind of chop it up in a loose format, what should they take away from your conversation? What would be that one takeaway from your conversation?
Really try to look at yourself and really evaluate what it is, the person that you are, so that you know what you expect out of the person you're trying to be in a relationship with.
That's fair. Fair. Know who you are so you can be who you need to be.
I agree with Nicole, but it's okay to be imperfect.
Mm-hmm.
It is okay to be imperfect to establish a beautiful relationship. It is okay. Our imperfections make us who we are. And I think if we understand that, we can have our relationships can just be wonderful. But we have to be realistic on who each individual is and not set unrealistic expectations for individuals because we all have shortcomings. But I do thank you guys for this. I wasn't going to do it. I'm just telling y'all. Dak owes me a meal. He don't know that yet.
He know now. He knows now.
Hey, I think I got a can of Van Camp's.
Don't play with me.
Nah, I'm just all right. Well, thanks again for joining us for another episode of Dialogue to Destiny. We do appreciate and respect your time, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.
You know,
Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Dialogue to Destiny. We sincerely hope you enjoyed today's show. All of us here truly appreciate your continued support. A simple way to support our show is by giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to our channel. This free action helps boost the show tremendously. We are committed to improving the content and quality of this podcast and are always open to any and all suggestions. If you wish, you can always contact the host of the show at the email shown on screen or simply leave a comment. Feel free to recommend topics or even guests for future shows. Again, thank you for your support, and we will see you next time on Dialogue to Destiny.